What do you say about this? Pretty cute, isn't it? This planting is about 2 weeks old. I used this Dollar Tree container, a tin, I guess, container, and some bedding plants. The bedding plants, listen, when I originally put them in were really, really tiny, so they've obviously thrived in here. For the first time, I've been able to plant bedding plants into a container that has no holes in the bottom, and I'm going to show you how I made that work. The first thing I did was I spray painted with clear paint the inside of the container. I just took a can of spray paint, clear spray paint, and shook it up real well. Did one round of clear paint, let it dry, and did a second round of clear paint. I figured it would help retard some of the rusting, and also it doesn't seem to leak, so I just have it sitting out there without any water leaking out when I water it. I can't guarantee it's always going to be like this, but it was kind of a interesting thing I didn't expect to happen. The second thing I did differently is taking some cheap landscaping fabric that I got a year ago from a grocery outlet. I made like a lining, a grow bag lining. It was really easy, and I'll show you how to custom make it for any container you have. I've noticed that because the liner's in there, there's a gap between the soil and the inside of the pot, so that the soil dries out better and it doesn't appear that the plants are getting waterlogged like they usually do when they're in a container like this with no hole. The first order of business is to measure the inside of your container, and this is not an exact science. I guess if you wanted to make it an exact science, you could and add darts and do this, that, and the other, but I found simple is best, and the simpler it is, the more likely I'm going to be to do it again. So first of all is I have a flexible measuring tape, and I'm going to start in the approximate middle of my my container, just like that. I'm going to just put the tape there, and I'm going to measure up. And here it seems to come to 6.5 inches from the middle up to the top. And I'm going to add 1 inch to that. So my fabric is going to be, one side of my fabric is going to be 7.5 inches. Okay. The second thing you do is you measure the inside of the container. Now, this container is pretty thin, so you could probably get away with measuring from the outside. But if you're doing a ceramic piece or something that's a little thicker, measuring the outside could definitely change your measurements and give you a grow bag that's a little too big or a little too bulky. Again, this is not an exact science. As you can probably see, the outside is a little bit wider than the inside, so we're going to have a little extra grow bag down at the bottom, but I'll tell you it all, once you fill it with soil, it doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these paper clips from the Dollar Tree and just kind of position them into place and go around the whole thing so I get a fairly accurate measurement, just like this. I love these plastic covered Dollar Tree paper clips more than I like the plain metal ones. For certain things like this, they seem to work so much better. So I'm just going around and clipping them into place, and I just get an approximation. All right, and I've come to the end, and it falls at about 25 inches. So I'm going to add 1/2 inch to that, and the other about 1/2 inch. The other side of my fabric is going to be 25.5 inches. So what I've done is I take some chalk here, and I have a big wide ruler, and this is already, the width of this was about 25.5 inches as it turns out. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my chalk and just make an approximate measure at 7.5 inches, because that was our other measurement, and just move along here, and here I've already done that, but just make a mark. All right. So at this point I have my lines there, and I'm just going to take the chalk and just draw it along, draw a cutting line. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, to the end. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut on the chalk line that I drew. Let me show you right there. So here's our our strip, cut it out. I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to make about 1/4 of an inch seam along the short end and along this long end, and here we are with the folded end. So we'll have kind of a little bag ready to go. So I'm going to get started. If you don't have a sewing machine, you can of course do this by hand. It's no big deal. So here it is finished. I did a little more than a 1/4 of an inch on this side. As you can see, I think I just got a little carried away. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. So I'm just going to turn it inside out, just like that. And there's your liner grow bag. Let me show you how it fits. So this is what it looks like when it's put into the container. There is still some extra fabric along the edge. It will sink once you put soil in it. This will sink down a bit. And I don't mind having the extra fabric along the top. If you don't like it, you cut it off. But I generally just turn it over and make a little cuff. It makes it easier to pull it out or whatever. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I have some cactuses I might transplant, or I might go back and get some more bedding plants. But as you can see, the finished product is cute and nice and cheap. Thank you so much for watching, and happy planting.